got back from Stafford Moor last night, and the rules down there this year, it's basically there's a festival there starts tomorrow, which is Monday, and that's a Silverfish Weeks festival. Normally, you can fish with a little method feeder, so you can fish with like 4-inch hook lengths, little ICS method feeders, flat method. And we all know how deadly they are because down at Stafford on a lot of the lakes, there's some carassia to be caught. But this year they changed the rules. You've got to fish with a foot hook length and a free running feeder, so no method feeders at all. And Andy's just come in. I'm actually doing a little bit of gear, and one of the rods that I'm doing is the rod that I fished with yesterday. The weather was horrific. I think the wind chill must have been 0 degrees yesterday. It was an easterly wind. It was absolutely freezing. And one thing, I did actually have like one little tangle there because I had a headwind. Now, obviously I just untangled it, but if you do get a problem in those conditions especially, and you don't want it, you don't want to be wasting time, I'm going to show you exactly what I do to just make everything nice and simple. The easiest free running rig you could use, and they're really, really simple to change. So let's go through the rod. Now, yesterday I actually used an 11-foot SL rod because we all know how carassios are. They are very, very a nightmare for coming off. And I used a 16 SFL to 011 power line, 6 pound sinking feeder mono main line with a 420 reel, and I lost one fish. It was good. I caught carassio and skimmers, come second in the match, learned a little bit for the festival. That was the main thing. But I thought whilst I'm in doing some kit, I'll show you guys, and Andy who's just come in the shop as well and wants to know, what do I do to make all this nice and simple and quick and easy to change if you do get a tangle on the bank. So 6 pound sinking feeder main line, and all I've done with that is tie the loop on the end. So the actual rig, which I'm going to be setting up, is not on the rod yet. So I'm going to make that on a separate piece of line, which is what I've got in front of me. Now there, basically, on that bit of paper, just to make it look so everyone can see, it is simple. You've got a twizzled boom, you've got a stot, number 8 stot. You can use the rubber version as well, it's up to you. And on there you see you've got a loop. Now that's obviously where your hook length would go. So you loop to loop the hook length, and you also loop to loop this rig onto your main line. So that means you can have several of these on a spool. So if you buy one of the Revolution spools, you can put them on there. You can just use like a little mat pin to hold them on, and it just saves all the hassle during the week, or if you're doing this sort of fishing on commercial, that you can change them without messing anything up on your rod. So I'm going to show you now exactly how to make it. It's nice and simple, but I do actually use 8 pound sinking feeder mono for the rig itself, and I like that because it's stiff, it stops tangles, and that's basically what this is all about, especially when you've got a headwind. It's all well and good when you sit on a lake, wind's off your back, it's nice and easy to cast. When you've got that wind in your face, it's a different ball game. And obviously this is what I do to sort of, if we do get any problems, then it's easy to change. So first thing, and got my 8 pound sinking feeder mono there. Oh, the shot's going. So what I'm going to do is fold that in half. Give yourself plenty of line to start with. So I folded it in half, and this is making the loop where the hook length would go. Now I'm going to just do a single figure of 8. Like that. You can make it whatever size you want. I normally go roughly about 3/4 of an inch. I haven't got anything to do the knot up, so I'm going to use a big pen. So make your knots all nice and tight. So basically now I've got that in the middle of that bit of 8 pound mono. Now the next stage, I know a lot of people they can't do it, whether their fingers ain't right or whatever, is doing the twizzled loop. Now it's really, really easy. So this right hand here, I'm going to turn towards me, and the left hand I'm going to turn towards you. Now as soon as you do that, that forces it to twist. Like that. Now, you probably see the twists, let me just lower that down. The twists are quite big. So let me just twist it a little bit more. I'll try and do it on the paper so you can watch. So you can twist that, right? Now if you want to make that even tighter, pull it apart and let it go back again. And all of a sudden those twists, you can see it starting to fight now, because them twists are really, really small. The smaller the twists, the sort of stiffer the boom becomes. And you can actually make it that tight that it won't go any more. So do that, let it come back together. You see it's fighting now because it's getting really, really tight. Now I want to make that boom a bit bigger than what I actually want it, because otherwise if you try and do it exact, you end up messing it up. So I reckon that's about 4 inches now. And with the feeder that I'm using, which is that little baby feeder over there, I don't want the boom too big. Like that. So it's as simple as that. Now what I need to do now is grab that there to stop it from unraveling itself. Now I'm going to bring that back up. Give yourself a little bit more line. Now what I've got to do now is I've got to create a knot at the top of that boom, or the size of the boom that I want. So what I do is just grab it, but what I do is I don't try and do the knot down here, I do the knot up here. Like that. So it's a simple figure of 8, but try and do it at the top of the boom. Alright, so that's now. Now what I do then, this is the crucial part, is try and hold the knot whilst I'm pulling the boom with this left hand to get that knot in position. Now that's about the length that I want, and then just pull it. Alright, so it's got a lovely boom there. It's not absolutely identical to that one, but it's close, which I'm not bothered about. I don't do everything identical. Next thing to do is cut the tag end off. Make sure you cut the tag end off and not the boom part, because I've done that several times in the past. But what the nice thing about this, you can do this at home on a dining room table. You try and do this on the bank when your hands are wet, cold, you can't. It's an absolute nightmare. So that's that. Don't worry about putting the swivel on. All I'm going to do then is get my number 8 stopped and put that at the top of that knot, because that's obviously the swivel is going to come down and sit on that. I'm just going to bite that on like that. Make sure he's right down on that. The lovely thing about a stop, or the rubber stop, is when the swivel sits against that, it actually, because it's got an edge on it, it actually makes it kick off really, really well. If you use a shot, you don't get the same effect. So that's that. Now what I'm going to do then is measure basically one arm. So hold it like that, up to sort of your chin, cut it off. So I've now got a piece of line. You can measure all this exactly, it's up to you. But I'm within inches, so I'm not that bothered. When you're casting out a cage feeder or method, you're never within millimeters, always inches or feet. So don't worry about it too much. Now the next thing to do is put a swivel on. So I've got a nice snap swivel. Let that go down to the stop, like that. You can see that. You imagine now, the feeder fill up the ground bait, I'm casting, look how that holds that off, which is what you want. And then I need to tie a loop on the opposite end to what I've just been working on. I'm just going to do a single figure of 8. Make this loop a little bit bigger, not too small. So probably like 2 inches plus. Tighten that up. Always tighten your knots up as tight as they can, especially when you're fishing with like 6 and 8 pound line. Cut that little tag end off. Because obviously if you make this, that's only like, I would say 2.5 foot. Now it's not going to affect the hook length. So when I cast out, the hook length's not going to get affected to that loop. Alright, if you're using big long hook lengths, then you might have to make it smaller. But what I don't want this loop to go into the quiver tip of that rod. That is an absolute no-no. That's why I try and make it a certain length, about an arm length, so it won't go into that rod when I cast out. And all I do then, I've got my loop for my main line, like I said, 6 pound. Put the loop of the main line through the rig that you've just made, and then you've got to feed the whole rig through the loop of the main line. So the swivel, everything goes through. You taking all this in, Andy? like that. Now you can just imagine if you get a tangle on the bank, all you do is snap that there, which is your rigged loop, take it off and put a new one on, and you're fishing within seconds. Like I said, trying to do this on the bank, it will take you minutes. That's if you do it and you're always panicking, especially if you're catching a few. And that is it. That is my rig for fishing on a commercial or natural venues if you've got to fish a free running rig. And then obviously I just attach my feeder to that snap swivel. That's the little feeders I've been using or will be using next week. Little hex mesh in 20 gram or 15 gram depending on the conditions. These are like the minis. They're absolutely superb. And like I said, that then sits there. I've made that about dead right. Because then that, then, when you're playing a fish, if I go out of it, that then, obviously you'll be playing a fish, and you can see that feeder is actually still rattling around on the main line or the 8-pound line. Alright, so if you go to a venue, you're fishing for carp, on a bomb, on a feeder, just depends on what feeder you're using. I've made that boom to fit that feeder. If you're fishing with a window, something a bit longer or bigger feeder, you might have to make this boom a little bit bigger. Like I said, so make sure that that's like that. That is an absolute perfect size. That one on the paper there was a little bit bigger. I'm not fussed about that. I'd rather have it a little bit longer than too short. So anyway, there you go. That's on there, look. Loop to loop, the main line, 8-pound. Nice and simple, really, really easy. But the most important thing is I can change it. If I get a tangle, if something goes wrong, I get itched up on the far bank or something happens, I can change it very, very quickly. Hope that helps.